feeding time, generally one of my main sources of food are 6-week-old crickets. As you can see, I have a couple containers. This just allows me to break down what I'm feeding what and how many I will put in each enclosure and each tank. And I actually like to dust pretty much 2 to 3 times with, I love the Fluker's Calcium. It has vitamin D3 and it's phosphorus free, so this helps keep the balance that you need and want. But I always like to have everyone just check to make sure what ingredients you have. As you can see in the bottom, it has calcium carbonate, which is, the calcium that we need, and then vitamin D3 supplement. Just a lot of these supplements that you may see have so many things that don't really even have any science backing or anything to it. So I love how simple that these are and how functional they are, because when a lot of them do have some other stuff that you don't need, it's not really good. And as you even say, it says on the back here, gives a little description, and this is actually scientifically correct of why these things are added in here and how UVB light and other things can be added. But if they do have intense UVB, you can use without the vitamin D3. Pretty much natural sunlight would be what my consideration would be of intense UVB, and this just means that with that high UVB light, they will actually develop the calcium D3 through their skin, and it actually goes through a process of getting metabolized by their liver and then also their kidney. So hydration is very important as well. And then this helps for not just bone growth, but also many other things like neurological development and other things. So this is very key and very important for when you are maintaining a healthy collared lizard, to make sure you do have the proper supplements for them.
Hey guys, so this is another source of food that I like to feed my collared lizards here at Colorful Collared Lizard Ranch. These guys are superworms, larger version of mealworms pretty much, and I generally feed these more as a snack because they tend to get addicted to these and will actually refuse to take crickets or other feeders. So I tend to only feed these when I'm holding or once a week inside their tank. But these are a great source of protein and also can be a source of fluids, but never replace feeding with any source of water. You're going to need water in their tank regardless. I have heard some people say, oh, they get their water from their crickets and food. No, that's actually not good, because as discussed earlier in this, to be able to metabolize the vitamin D3 with their kidney, they do need a source of water. So hydration is very key in that process as well. Now here are actually the mealworms. So these again are like a smaller version of superworms, and I tend to feed these more towards my smaller juvenile guys just to get them used to eating superworms. But it's also another good source of protein and a little bit of hydration. But again, I generally stick these to more snacks. This is what I use towards training time of holding them. I'll offer one of these guys, and they love to gobble them down, and they can take a few down as well. And it's just easier for them to swallow. Always rule of thumb, you don't try to force anything down that's wider than their eyes. But I've seen collared lizards take down some pretty big insects in their size. But again, just generally good to keep smaller ones. As you can see, the size difference is pretty extreme between the mealworms and superworms. You do get some larger mealworms, but generally you can have a range of different sizes. These are some here that I've bred, so you can see you got some little ones and bigger ones. But again, another good food source for the younger juveniles, but I generally don't feed these to my larger collared lizards. Hey guys, here are some baby dubia roach nymphs that I have. I just grabbed these out of one of my dubia colonies. Maybe later I'll show you guys actually how to build your own dubia roach colony. But just to show you these guys, these are actually pretty high in protein, higher than crickets per size and per ratio. So it's a pretty good main food source. This is one of the main food sources I do offer, and I do breed my own. So it does make it very cost effective and efficient. So I just grab these little guys. The females tend to pop out a bunch of little babies all the time. As long as they're happy, you have the right food for them and other things. But again, dubia roaches are one of the main food sources. These guys are smaller. Generally, depending on size, I'll actually feed these to newborn and neonates. And then generally for my larger adults, I'll feed around 3/4 of an inch size nymphs. I'd never feed my actual breeder adults because that's what keeps my colony alive. But these guys, I can have so many of them that I can afford to put a little bit of them in there. Finally, as what I showed earlier, these are some of the crickets that I have. These guys are 6-week-old crickets, so as you see, it's just before they get the wings. So if you do get them in large orders, it's actually better because you don't have to hear all that annoying chirping all the time. But these guys I do feed to my adults, and it's one of my main sources of food. This along with the dubia roaches, but pretty much these guys have a decent amount of protein and other things that the collared lizards need. I do dust these as recommended earlier, probably around 2 to 3 times a week, just because my guys don't get the natural sunlight UVB that they naturally would get in the wild. But again, these are crickets, 6-week-old. I do also have 4-week-old ones that I do offer to my younger ones. And you can also see some little smaller ones in here. So need be, if you do get an order or get some larger ones and you do have some little ones to feed, you can always just hand pick out the smaller ones for the little ones if you're not afraid to touch them. Here's one of my Dickerson male collared lizards, also known as a Dickerson's collared lizard. These guys are really cool and have some really nice cobalt blue colors. As I zoom in here, you can really appreciate how blue these guys can actually be. The females tend to be more of a gray with some yellow legs and tails, but they do have some blue. I'll actually show you a little female after this guy right here who has some amazing blues in her as well. But again, this is a Dickerson's collared lizard and one of my favorite new additions that I've had here at the Colorful Collared Lizard Range. Here's one of my female Dickerson's collared lizards. As you can really see, there's some bright yellows in her tail and legs. Sometimes they do get subtle blues in them, but generally they stay more earth-toned. This is similar across a lot of the female collared lizards, different species and locales you'll see. The males will be more vibrant, like the Dickerson males that are bright cobalt blue, to where the females tend to blend in a little bit more. This may be to protect how they're carrying eggs and other things along with it, but it's just cool to really see and appreciate the different colors that you can actually have among males and females of the different species. Here's another one of my male Dickerson collared lizards. You can see he actually has some sort of black in him. He's actually about to go through a shed, so he has a grayish tone to him. But this is one of my guys who actually has a real deep blue in him. He has really cool colors and actually have a clutch that's about to hatch from him this year. So I'm really excited to get some of his babies. His wife that's back in there actually is one of my 3 collared females. So I'm really having my fingers crossed to have a 3 collared male Dickerson collared lizard. So let's look forward to and stay tuned to future videos where I might reveal some of the babies that have hatched. Here's one of my juvenile female Dickerson's collared lizard females. As you can see, she actually has a really cool white head and a lighter, softer yellow in her tail and legs. But one of my favorite things about her is, along with those black spotting along her side, she actually has some blue bands. So I'm really excited to see how she progresses and grows, and maybe even pair her up next year once she's a little bit older with another male and see what the babies have in store. I'm really excited about this girl.
This guy here has to be one of my favorite black spotted collared lizards. These are actually eastern collared lizards, but they're thought to possibly be a cross between easterns and the reticulated collared lizard. So it's pretty interesting, and obviously there's probably going to be more research needed to come on the actual genetics of what these guys are, but currently they're just classified as an eastern collared lizard. They can range from almost near the United States border all the way down to Mexico with these black spots. As you can truly appreciate on this guy here, he has some really cool black spotting, almost barring on him. And he has more of a green with some subtle yellow stripes and a really cool white dewlap with some blue on him. But this is one of my male black spotted, or aka eastern collared lizard males, also with the old subspecies of Melanoma, but that's no longer recognized in this species.
I was really excited to actually be the first in the United States to successfully breed these guys back in May, and since then I've actually had 2 more clutches after the original one.
You'll wake up to a baby collared lizard.
Things that can help me determine the sex on these little guys.
Any of those are you planning to breed your collared lizards?